You know what? My stream is being kind of finicky right now, but I think I'm just gonna deal with it and hope that it doesn't come out glitchy or whatever. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on it now? Uh, why am I? This is a really interesting quote to kind of start off on. So we're gonna dig into kind of the psychology of fear and like why people have fear and what happens when we let our fears take over. So let's go ahead and read through this. So it's a basic human emotion, so it should be no surprise that any study of literature includes themes associated with fear. In the stories included in this module, we will read about fears that are completely, and none of y'all do your work. We'll also read about fears deeply felt by most everyone at some point in their lives, like the fear of failure and the fear of death. Ooh, how spooky. In life and in art, this module challenges you. It's okay to feel a little fear. Oh, that's kind of nice. Kind of reminding us that, yes, fear is kind of a part of life for sure. Oh, next page, where'd you go? Oh, there it is. It's just being slow. So right here is just a, like, kind of a checklist and a rough estimate of how long each of the lessons is going to take you. Now, this is going to vary a lot from person to person. So of course, you kind of have to take this with a grain of salt, however, whatever that phrase is. And also, as English 10 teachers, we will be creating like a document for you that has the full list of things and how long that they're going to take. Now, you'll notice that there are some stuff down here, like for example, there's some honors stuff down here, there's a module exam, and some of these activities in the middle, we might actually take some of them out because we want to do roughly one lesson per week. And there are about 9 lessons total, but there's only 8 weeks left. So we are going to have to take out some of the lessons in order to make everything fit. Now, this page 3, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because, again, this isn't something that we are going to be doing too much of. So this assessment where they talk about the pretest, yeah, that's not something that we're doing, so you can ignore that. And you can also ignore this honor stuff because our honor stuff is going to be different. So let's go ahead and jump into the first lesson, which is fears, anxieties, phobias. Oh my! What a exhilarating topic. Cool. So many things cause fear. Some are rational and others are irrational. So those words rational and irrational, I always remember these as like rational is like reasonable. And you can remember that because rational and reasonable start with the same letter of R. So irrational is the opposite of that, which means irrational means not reasonable. To learn about some common phobias or irrational fears, read the panels below. So let's take a look at this. Phobia is abnormal, persistent, and intense fear. Acrophobia, the fear of heights. Ooh, I feel like I have like kind of an acrophobia, but I'm not really sure because I really like roller coasters and like I like really high like natural things. Like when I went to Alaska, I went on a hike and climbed like a little kind of like, they call it Flat Top, which is one of their smaller kind of like hiking mountains over there. And I thought that was really fun. But sometimes I do have a little bit of acrophobia. Agoraphobia, the fear of public places. Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. Spiders are actually like really fascinating creatures, so I would recommend that if you're deathly terrified of spiders, that you maybe just study them and try to understand why they're actually important for the world. Claustrophobia, fear of small spaces. This is actually still kind of a fear that I have. For example, I can't put my head under the blanket because I just feel like I can't breathe, and I don't like being in spaces where I can't move. Like, that really freaks me out. So, I know some people like to sleep wrapped up in, like a burrito in their blankets, and I'm, like, not about that life. I, freak out if I get wrapped up or tangled in blankets. Dentophobia, fear of dentists. I never really understood where this fear... Okay, I understand that it's a real thing, but, I personally have never experienced dentophobia because... I don't know. I guess I've never had like a bad experience at the dentist, so that might just be a personal thing. Hypnophobia, the fear of sleep. Oh my gosh, I definitely do not have this. I freaking love sleeping. Necrophobia, fear of death or dead things. I kind of have this actually. I get really freaked out, but when I see like come across dead things, like if I come across a bug, it's like whatever. But if I come across a dead bug, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, don't touch it. Yeah, I definitely have kind of an irrational fear of dead things. Panophobia, fear of everything. Wow, I like how it's just a picture of the planet Earth right there. Pyrophobia, the fear of fire. That's kinda, ooh, that's a... I feel like I fear dying a fiery death more than I fear fire. Sophophobia, the fear of learning. Oh my goodness, I bet some of your students have this out there. I'm just like calling all of you out. Thermophobia, the fear of heat. Oh, that's kind of similar to like the fire phobia one, but I guess this one's just specific to the heat. Oh, okay, we got to the end. So sometimes fears and phobias can result. Sophophobia, keep you from growing as a writer. Sophophobia, remember, that's the fear of learning. So some of our objectives that we've got for this is to use knowledge regarding film. Definitely lays out the objectives. Like, that's pretty nice of them. So let's go to the next page of this. Oh, if it actually loads. There it goes. My internet's been really slow. I think that's why I was having some streaming issues before. Like, I think it was just the internet being slow. And it might still have a couple issues, but that'll be whatever. So let's consider the word phobia. According to Greek mythology, Phobos is the god of fear. Oh, I didn't know that actually. He is the son of Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Accompanying his father into war, Phobos would spread fear and panic to conquer enemies. Phobos is the root of our word phobia, which means irrational fear. Enhancing our vocabulary, there is no need to fear adding new words into our vocabulary. At least half of the words, suffixes, prefixes. Select each word below to see how common words contain these elements. It's kind of interesting. Oh, I like this. Got a little activity for us. So we click on it. Okay, so prefix, remember prefix means before. So prejudice, before. Psycho, soul, spirit or mind, and logi, the study of, psychology, so that means the study of the mind. Reaction, again, act, do, driver, move, and ion, that un suffix, the result of. So the result of doing something again. Aerophobia, aero means flying or planes. You can think about that like aeroplane, for example, but we do spell airplane differently now. Like the language has just evolved. And phobia, irrational fear. So an irrational fear of flying. Claustrophobia. Clauster, confined spaces. Phobe, again, that fear. And ick, having to do with. So having to do with a fear of confined spaces. So these like roots, prefixes, and suffixes, you know, honestly, there's no easy way to get around this other than just memorizing them and knowing a bunch of them. This is actually one of the things that I wish as a teacher, as like a real life teacher, I taught more of. Because when I was in high school, I studied, like we had to study the heck out of roots, suffixes, and prefixes. And honestly, it makes me a much better reader and learner these days. Because it means that when I come across a word like prejudice, I can break it down. Even if I don't understand the word, I can still break it down into its roots, prefixes, and suffixes and figure out a rough idea of what it means. And I had to learn a lot of them. I had to learn I think we learned like 600 of them by the end of high school. So one study revealed that if a person learned how to use a set of 20 prefixes, 15 roots, and 10 suffixes, the meaning of over 100,000 words can be unlocked. Oh my goodness. So as you see, some words are more than words. They are whole ideas. Choosing just the right word can make a big difference. Imagine how much more interesting your writing will be by adding so many new words to your vocabulary. So they give you some examples of just some common suffixes and their meanings. If you're very interested in studying more of these, I would actually recommend looking up word within a word. So this is what I studied in, I think this is it right here. So this is what I studied when I was in high school, and like it was literally like these same exact words and everything. So I don't know how many of them there are total, but there's a lot of them. And if you can go to like Quizlet, for example, and there are flashcards. Oh, well, it's not gonna let me look at it right now. But there are flashcards and everything already made, so you don't even have to make the materials. They actually all already exist. And it's, I don't know, I thought it was super helpful to learn in high school. And it even helped me through college. Ooh, okay, what's this? Those Greeks had a sense of humor. Hippopotamonstrosesquidaliophobia. Oh my gosh, thank you, viewer, for the like. We're just going through some English 10 curriculum. Is the fear of long words. Okay. Oh, okay, I feel like I've heard this word before then. Like when people talk about like, do you have hippopotamus? Okay, it doesn't say hippopotamus, but I tried. All right, this says phobias can be used as a root or a suffix depending on the word. In the word claustrophobic, phobe is used as a root. The prefix clauster comes before it, and the suffix ic follows it. In the word panophobia, phobia is a suffix because it comes after the root pan. So the suffix, you can remember that a root is like the main part of your word, and the suffix comes after the root, and the prefix comes before the root. And pre, you can remember it comes before because like pre literally means before. So in this lesson, you will learn 10 common root words that use phobia as a suffix. Use the flashcards below to quiz yourself and become familiar with these words. Try to think of words you already know that use these roots. Use the flashcards below to quiz yourself and become more familiar with these roots. Try to think of, wait, did they just, I feel like those directions were really repetitive. Like they just gave the same direction twice. Acro, I believe this means high, right? Like a high place, yes, height. Let's see if I can get all 10 of these without having to like, oh, that's the spider one because arachnophobia, that's an easy one for me. Cluster, that's like a small space, confined space, yes. Dent, teeth, tooth, same thing. Hypna, sleep. Dang, I'm so good at these. Necro, death. Pan, everything. I remember that one by pansexual as well. Pyro, fire. Soph, knowledge. Therm, temperature or heat. Oh, that's all 10 of them. Dang, I am like really good at these. Okay. Your experience with these is probably going to be different because I obviously have learned these before. So don't just take this as like the end all be all. Your experience will likely differ than mine. Cool. Let's go to the next page. So words that use these roots are indicated below. Use your English notebook or create flashcards to record these roots. As you do so, consider drawing a box around the root or highlighting it so that you can see the parts of the word. Also consider using the slideshow from the beginning of our lesson to study these words and roots. Okay. So I'm not gonna lie, I already know all of these roots. So I don't really know if I have to like go through the work of creating flashcards for this or writing it in my English notebook. If you don't know these, I would recommend that you do it because again, it's really good to know these. But I mean, I already got them. Like you saw on the last page, I kind of just went through all of them. Now I have to make a choice as a teacher. Do I do the good teacher thing and do I follow the directions and still start like a journal? Or do I just skip and go to the next page? You know what? I think I do the bad teacher thing and I don't follow the directions and I go to the next page. Oops. Ooh, this one's about writing, my favorite. So professional writers use techniques we can identify to create suspense. An author may choose just the right word or vivid description to draw readers into their stories. Another important way authors craft their stories is through their syntax. That's, again, their sentence structures. Word order in a sentence can be just as effective as word choice or imagery. Carefully crafting their words, sentence by sentence, allows writers to create stories that make us laugh, cry, clench our fists in anger, or feel actual fear. In our own writing, we can give sentence variety and create desired effects by manipulating syntax. Consider how you might use the following language tools to either individually or in combination. Ooh, repetition. Repetition is one of my favorite tools to use as a writer. Like, I legit probably use repetition too much in my writing, not gonna lie. Fragment. Oh my gosh, I love the sentence fragment. I actually had like a whole writing thing about this last week at some point where I talked about fragmented sentences. Punctuation marks. Punctuation controls the... You know, I should probably actually talk about these instead of just clicking through them. Sorry, I just like lost track of myself. So repetition is when you repeat a word or you repeat a phrase over and over again. So you'll notice in this example, the word they shows up over and over again. Now, repetition can be used... Repetition, I would say, is actually one of the more powerful and simpler like writing tools that you can use in your own writing. But you have to be very... What's the word? You have to be very like... Oh my gosh, I can't English right now. You have to be very intentional about it. Like, if you do a lot of unintentional repetition, then it just looks messy. But if you do this very intentional repetition, then it looks really polished and can sound really good. A fragmented sentence is, that's when you actually just take like a word or 2 words or 3 words. It's basically just not a full sentence. However, you can use it in a very creative way. So it's not grammatical. And that's, again, why you have to be very intentional with it. So this is one of those things where, like, in order to break the rule, you have to know the rule. So you can't just, like, ignore sentence structure. Like, you have to still have sentence structure, but it's just sometimes if you want to be a little more creative with it, you can. What do they say about punctuation marks? Punctuation controls the pace of the sentence. Choose dashes, commas, colons, semicolons, exclamation points, and question marks to manipulate how quickly or slowly the reader experiences your writing. Examples: fear, hyphen, dash, or rather yielding to it, and thereby giving power to fear-mongers, dashes, cannot and will not keep us from pursuit of human rights. That's a... I think that's a typo right there. That should be... So this... Right here, this like long dash, that's what's called an M dash, and this is not really an M dash. That's just 2 hyphens. I mean, usually in writing, like if you're writing on a text editor, it'll turn this into an M dash. So I think that's probably just a typo that they have. Because we pause to listen, comma. Because we stop to plan our response, comma. Because we look at your argument slowly and with care, comma. Do not think, we fear to act. Ooh, I really like that. It's very powerful. To those who doubt our resolve, comma. We have only to say this. Ooh, colon. We shall not rest until equality finds its way to the weak, comma, the old, comma, the suffering, comma, and the poor. Wow, these are some really like bomb sentences. Rest your head, semicolon. Tomorrow we renew the fight. Ooh, that's dramatic. Chin up, exclamation point. Eyes wide, exclamation point. Oh, very perky. The battle is over, comma. What did we gain? So this is like technically not grammatical, but again, it's for stylistic purposes. So authors also use a variety of phrases to create vivid and varied sentences. Phrases often add description to sentences and tell readers how, where, when, and why something happened. Take notes on the following types of phrases, paying particular attention to how these different phrases can be used to give our sentence variety. Ooh, okay, so these are all the different types of phrases, or not all of them. It's like a couple of the different types of phrases that are used in the English language. It's kind of a shame that like they just jump right into this stuff, because if you don't know what a preposition is, then you're not exactly going to know what a prepositional phrase is. So let's consult the Googles. Oh, Google.com. A preposition. Dictionary says a word governing and usually preceding a noun or pronoun and expressing relation to another word or element. Wow, that did not help at all. That is a very, okay. Simple prepositions are words like at, for, in, off, on, over, and under. So these are just some like very common examples of prepositions. So if you think about it, I could say like, I jumped over the house. That's a preposition. I go, or yeah, to the store, also a preposition. I talk at the students. At would be the preposition. So oftentimes a preposition is used to show like to show kind of like a general location of the noun, or like what your verb is going towards. No, that's not a good way to put it. It's really hard to come up with a definition of a preposition. What does your dictionary say? Oh yeah, it is used to show the relationship between the noun and pronoun in a sentence. So a preposition must always be followed by a noun or pronoun in a sentence. It can never be followed by a verb. So I can't say something like at run. Like at run does not make sense. Participle. Group of words that modify or describe a noun. They always function as adjectives and begin with words ending in ing or ed. The bell clanging over and over throughout the night. Exhausted from a sleepless night. So oftentimes you will find, so like participles, again, they act as an adjective. So if you think about that, adjectives describe our nouns and our verbs, right? So like the cat is a noun. It's an object, or it's a person, place, or thing, or object. And so what that means is that when I add a participle into that, that would mean that I can say like the cat sleeping in the sun was very fat. So sleeping, we know that that's a verb, or we know that that comes from a verb, which also comes from a noun. Oh my gosh, that's a really confusing thing. So sleep is both a verb and a noun. Like we can say that someone is asleep. Well, that's kind of like, that's not a good example, because that's more of a linking. Oh, oh no. It's so hard to come up with these on the spot. But anyways, participles are taken from when you can turn, so participles are usually created when you take a verb or a noun and you can turn it into an adjective. That's basically the meat of a participle. And we can even consult the Googles. No, not particle, participle. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Participle. Okay, cool. So it's a word formed from a verb and is used as an adjective. So that is like the definition of a participle. So you'll notice that clanging Notice that the verb in here is clang. Like I have my water bottle. I can clang my water bottle against like my computer, for example. But clanging is not a verb. I can't say that, oh, I went clanging yesterday. Like, well, okay, I can say that because now I turned it into a noun, but I can't say like, I clanging my water bottle. Like that doesn't make sense. That's not proper English or proper grammatical English anyways. I'm sure if you said it out loud, people would understand what you meant, but it's not like grammatical. So the way that we can turn clang into a adjective and into a participle is we add that ing to it. Or you can also add the ed to it. So if you add the ing or the ed to a verb, you could turn it into a participle. Gerundial. Gerundial? I think it's gerundial, because when it's not in this form, we call it a gerund. So gerundial phrase, groups of words that act as a noun. Gerunds end in ing. So screaming in a movie, so right there we have that word scream. So scream we know is a verb, like screaming is an action that I can take. However, if I add that ing to it, now it is becoming a noun. So screaming in a movie is usually appropriate unless it is a scary movie. So screaming, that's like a noun. Like I can go out screaming. Like I can go outside and I can scream. And maybe in some weird alternate universe, we call that like, oh, this person had a good old screaming day. I don't know. That's just something I'm making up. But yeah, so you can do this to all of your verbs. If you add that ing, you turn it into a noun. Now, that's not necessarily all the time, because remember, you can add the ing to turn it into an adjective. So again, it's going to depend where it shows up in the sentence. Infinitive is a group of words that begin with a to and then a verb. I think infinitives are probably the easiest thing to remember because you know that they always are going to start with to. And you know that it's always going to be a to and then a verb. So like to go, to buy, to be, to see, to look. So these ones are usually pretty easy to remember. Infinitives, just remember that it's always going to start with a to and it's going to have a verb in it right after it. And an absolute phrase, groups of words consisting of a noun or pronoun and their modifiers, and/, or participle ending in ing or ed and other modifiers, and they add information to the entire sentence. The old house terrified the neighborhood children, comma, the front door creaking like an open mouth and a vacant window staring at like empty eyes. I don't really like, I mean, I guess the sentence works. However, this kind of starts to go into the territory of a misplaced modifier because like if you don't read this carefully, you could almost think that this chunk right here is describing the neighborhood children, because typically when we have these like descriptions put aside in commas, we should try to put them as close to the noun as we can. Otherwise, you could end up reading this as like the neighborhood children who have front door creaking like an open mouth, and that doesn't make sense because obviously neighborhood children do not have front doors. Each child running past the house without looking at it, they hurried as if the house might reach out and grab them. So this actually makes a lot more sense. I like this better because you'll notice that each child running past the house without looking at it, that is like a whole kind of phrase used to describe they. And they're right next to each other, so it's easy to see that they are connected. If you're having a hard time with some of this grammar stuff, I highly recommend that you check out some like grammar YouTube videos, or that you check out some other grammar sources online. There are tons of sources. Maybe I'll even make my own video. I don't know yet. Maybe. We'll see. If I have time. I mean, let's be real, I have time. So I'm just being lazy. Don't judge me. Let's take a look at page 6. Ooh, this one's all about punctuation. So authors use punctuation and sentence structure to purposefully to create and change the pace of their writing. Use the Venn diagram below to determine the different purposes of slow and fast-paced writing. Okay, so we drag and drop the various results to the place that you believe creates them. Some of the outcomes are the result of both fast and slow paces. Use the both box for both of these qualities. Convey dread, anxiety, or fear. I think we would want... Oh. Okay. Wait. Oh. Okay, I did the first one wrong and now it just disappeared forever. So, immerse the reader in all elements of the experience. I feel like both kind of do that. What? Why can't I put it in? Oh, it's just slow pace. Okay. Build suspense. Ooh. I feel like both can do this? Yes. Communicate a thoughtful mood. Oh, I would definitely say that's a slow pacing. Communicate excitement, joy, or enthusiasm. Fast paced, definitely. Convey dread, anxiety, or fear. I would say that's, oh, is it both? It is both. Great work! I did it! So, slow and fast-paced sentences work much like scary music in a film. They contribute to the mood and build the tension. Test your understanding of pace and its effects in the following activity. Effects of pace. Choose each of the tabs below to learn about how fast-paced and slow-paced, and then read the short example passage to see how pace is created. So what is the fast pace? To create the sense that time is going quickly and to make our hearts race. An author might use short sentences or long sentences with many short phrases. Use... What? Wait, what on earth? Why are you kicking me out? Okay, I'm back in. It's fine. Use many short phrases connected by commas. Use repetition of words. Okay, next. I had swooned, but will not say that all the consciousness was lost. What of it there remained I will not attempt to define or to describe. Yet all was not lost in the deepest slumber, no. In delirium, no. In a swoon, no. In death, no. Even in the grave all is not lost. Else there is no immortality for man. Ooh. Oh, this is so cool. Now it's gonna break this down for me. I really liked the repetition of the words in here. I thought that was very powerful, and I like the punctuation too. Like, I do really like those hyphen and dashes right there. I didn't actually, oh. I didn't notice the infinitive phrases until it told me about them. So its effect. So Poe uses fragments and repetition to help us to experience the first-person narrator's terror upon waking in a dungeon. Ooh. The short fragments, dashes, and exclamation marks create a fast pace to communicate the narrator's panic and to build suspense. I definitely had that feeling. Ooh, the slow pace. So to create the sense that time is going slowly and to build suspense, an author might use punctuation like commas or semicolons to make the reader pause. Use long sentences full of descriptive phrases. Use words or phrases that slow a sentence. Let's take a look at the example. So it was in this apartment also that there stood against the western wall a gigantic clock of ebony, its pendulum swinging to and fro with a dull, heavy, monotonous clang. And when the minute hand made the circuit of, I don't know why I switched to this voice, I just feel like that's the voice it's doing. And when the minute hand made a circuit of face and the hour was to be stricken, there came from the brazen lungs of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar a note and emphasis that at each lapse of an hour the musicians of the orchestra constrained to pause momentarily in their performance to hearken to the sound, while the chimes of the clock yet rang. It was observed that even then the giddiest dancers grew pale, and the more aged and sedate passed their hands over their brows, as if in confused reverie or meditation. That is 2 sentences. Like, I'm not even kidding. That is literally 2 sentences right there. Wow, yeah, some really big phrases in there. The punctuation, the use of the commas. Now, a lot of times, a lot of these would be considered run-on sentences. That's not to say that it's ungrammatical, although I think some of these commas might be like just thrown in there as stylistic purposes. But remember, you can break the rule once you know the rule. So as long as it's like intentional, you can break the rules. Series of adjectives. Ooh, the series of adjectives in here were juicy. These were so juicy. I was living for them. So its effect. Could you hear the clock clanging? Could you see the musicians and dancers pause as they grew nervous? What? Is that a word? I feel like that's not a word. Did they mean to write nervous? Oh. Yeah, that's a typo. So Poe uses many commas to connect phrases and adjectives in one long sentence. He uses these features to slow readers and to make us pause, like the musicians and dancers, which is effective at creating a suspenseful mood. That's very interesting. I feel like I'm learning a lot for myself as well, like as a teacher. So the effects of the slow pace, to create, wait, didn't we? Oh, okay, they're just going through another example. I'm looking at my time and I'm seeing that I only have 15 minutes left, so I think I'm going to skip that second example. I really like those examples they pulled out, some really good stuff from Edgar Allan Poe. So let's go to the last page of this week's lesson. So in this lesson, we learned that there is a phobia for just about everything, even long words and grammar. We acquire knowledge that can help us overcome any fear that we might have about learning new words or improving our writing. We learned that most words contain roots, prefixes, suffixes, and help us to determine the meaning of countless words. And we added several new words to our vocabulary. We also learned how to use punctuation, repetition, and different types of phrases for effect. So assessment instruction. For your assessment, you will complete a quiz that covers vocabulary, roots, and words, as well as the different elements that writers can use to create an effect through their syntax. Be sure to study and review the material in the lesson before accessing the quiz. So again, you're going to have a quiz about this in the next section. I'm not going to go through the quiz on stream because I want all of you to have an opportunity to try for yourself. However, on Wednesday during the office hour, if you have questions about the quiz, you can for sure ask them at that time. Something that I am going to do for the quiz is I'm going to make the quiz. Let me go to the settings. Yes, we definitely have to have a due date on this. How do I make it so... So you do need to get at least a 60 on this to pass. How do I like, oh. So is this already set to like give people multiple tries? I hope that it is, because I can't figure out a way to change it. So I'm going to assume that this already gives you multiple attempts. Oh, no, it doesn't. Cool. So that'll give you multiple attempts now. Awesome. All right, so I think that's where I'm going to end the stream for English 10 for today. Again, if you have any questions about the lesson, be sure to reach out to me. We'll have some office hours later this week where we can do some Google Meet chatting. Thank you for tuning in, whether you did it live or if you're watching this after the fact, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. All right, bye y'all.